Hello, welcome to Hotline.
Welcome to Hotline Interface. I'm Michael Sharp, your host. We're live on RJR 94 FM and Jamaica News Network, JNN. In today's program, a children activist and founder of Hear the Children's Cry, Betty Ann Blaine, says she's angry about what is happening to the nation's children. At the end of September, 35 children were killed, and she fears that number might increase before the end of the year. Her cry comes following the death of 14-year-old Raven Wilson, who was found bound and her throat slashed in St. Ann on Sunday. Wilson was reported missing last Friday. Now Blaine is calling on the Prime Minister to intervene. Quote, "We have been calling on him, Prime Minister, since January. We have been asking for an emergency child summit where we could bring the critical stakeholders around one table. And if we could come away with even one solution of how we could protect the children of Jamaica, we would have succeeded," she said. Chairman of the Federation's Corporal Arlene McBean, we are hoping, will join us a little later in the program. And we want to discuss the recent murders of women and children as well. I want to say a pleasant morning to you, if we can claim it to be pleasant when we talk about these news.
I know, yeah.
Why you want meeting with the Prime Minister will make a difference? Let me play the devil's advocate.
Of course. He's the head of the country. The government has the resources that certainly no NGO has, right? And so I believe that there are solutions, but it's going to require the political will to implement some of those, and it's definitely going to require the resources. So when I talk about a summit, I'm not talking about a talk shop. Been in this business too long to want to be talking anymore.
Yes.
We simply want to bring the critical people around one table, particularly the decision makers and particularly those in the private sector that can, in that meeting, say, look, if you need a couple $1 million, here it is. And so when we look, for example, at the issue of transportation for children, at the very least, Michael, our children should be able to go to school and come home from school safely. That's an area that I think if we met around one table, we could agree on what we could do. I believe there are things we can do in terms of the transportation of our children. And then we could get the resources to do them. So this is not a talk shop, you know. This is not a summit for just talking. This is to look at even one solution for child protection in Jamaica.
You mentioned transportation.
Right.
Are you talking about a school bus system here?
Well, here is what I have in mind, because I've heard that, boy, the school bus system has been tried, it don't work. I think it hasn't worked because we've not properly implemented it. In every country that I know, every developed country and others, there are school buses and the system works. So I'm not even talking about school buses per se. Here is what I have in mind, for example. Our children are taking taxis and route taxis all across the country, particularly rural children. I would want to know who those must know who those taxi drivers are.
Yes.
So they have to be registered. They have to be regulated, so we must know who they are. They must pass a test, because a lot of our children have been abducted in taxis by taxi drivers and murdered.
Yes.
Those taxis must have a plate on them, must have a sticker, a nice big sticker that says, we are registered to take children. So the children themselves would know which taxis they get into. You see, why can't we do that? Why can't we do that? That seems simple enough to do.
Do forgive my, kind of misgivings here. I see how the children board what is available to them now.
Right.
There's a yellow bus, and then there's every other color that takes them.
Right.
And I know which one they prefer.
Right.
They're still up there sitting with a driver. They're still up there. The home seems to be where the problem is.
Well, the problem is also in the home, but we're not saying if we were to implement a system like what I'm talking about, which is to know to regulate those taxis that are there to carry children,
Yes.
to transport kids, right? We'd have to do it in conjunction with the work we'd be doing in homes, anything we do in Jamaica to improve the lives of children must involve parents and homes. So we would have to do the level of public education to, listen, here's what we need to say to kids. If you go into the wrong taxi, it could mean that you'd lose your life. They must know it's a danger. They must know it's a risk. So the taxis that will take you safely will have a sticker on it that will say this taxi is registered to take children. Those are the ones you get into. Because if you get into the ones that don't have this kind of registration, then you could risk your lives. Kids know that. They know what's happening. They see how many children are being murdered, and they're scared.
All right.
So this is a way to say to children, if you take these vehicles, you'll be safe. I think we can do this.
Hopefully we can do this, but I see the budget side of things coming up. But before we even drill down further on that, because we need a break. Okay, I obey the people who speak in my ears, and we'll take a break. And I'm happy to tell you that Corporal Allen Dean is here, and therefore we'll even talk some more about the recent murders of women and children. But until then, Michael Sharp saying, stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Hotline Interface. I'm Michael Sharp, and I have with me some ladies who know about this business as it relates to crying for a long time. Some are sighing because we want to know what we're going to do. Ever so often we're hearing about new reports of women being killed by some jealous man, or children being killed by jealous men and stupid men. Corporal Arlene McBean, from where you sit, give me a reaction. It's your human reaction to what is going on.
My reaction is very deep as it relates to this problematic situation. And why I say it is very deep, very strong, it's because over all these years I've been in the force, I have dealt with cases of abuse, domestic abuse, child abuse, and so on. But I've never gotten the chance to experience what it feels like when it's closer to home. And when I say home, to the JCF. It is a problem that needs a national campaign, a national drive, not just because of a one situation happening now and there is a cry and there are persons coming out to say we need to do this and we need to do that. But it must be on a continuum. It must move from generation to generation. So you understand when it moves in that direction, you have the international partners coming along. So there is some consistency. So the newborn baby, when that baby reaches to the age of 16, knows that the campaign goes on until they're old. Now, what is happening in this country is senseless. It touches the very core of the household. It touches the very core of the corporate society. It touches the very core of the nation. It cannot be because persons or males don't know how to deal with things intelligently from an economical perspective, takes on the physical. You know, it is something that shows a weakness, a negative in the power that they believe they don't have. So it is transferred in a very damning way.
Ugly.
Ugly.
Let me ask you, Richard.
Yeah.
Because we speak to the boys coming up and dealing with issues like this. We're not capturing them as little boys. What's going on with that? We're not capturing them as little boys so they know they must protect
No, we're
the
not.
family?
We're
the
not.
home?
And we have...
Is
what-
this
well,
the
it's a
women failing at that level? Let me just be
Well, you know, a
brutal
lot
here.
of these young, a lot of our boys, a lot of our boy children are being raised by women only in single parent households. Many of them don't know their fathers, so the fatherlessness is a huge problem. What we have here in Jamaica, you know, is a family life crisis. We don't have a crime problem, it's a family problem we have. And when we fix family life, we will fix our country. But I want to piggyback on what Corporal McBean just said, that this problem now requires a national and urgent response, really. We never used to kill children. We've always had problems with murders, but children, we never used to kill kids. And so the question to be asked now is, why are we killing children? And who are those persons who are child killers? Now, I think that when Corporal McBean talks about a national campaign, I think the issue of child killers and child killings must be separated out now from the general law enforcement work and the criminal justice system and be treated as a special and specific problem. Because child killers are, who are child killers actually? We know many of them are pedophiles. In other words, these are persons, men, who have a special love, sexual attraction to children. Now, if they're pedophiles, we must know, because the experts tell us that pedophilia cannot be cured. This is why in developed countries like America and other places, you put them on a register after conviction because you cannot cure them. So the only other thing to do is to protect the kids.
To mitigate against
Right, you have to, so wherever they go to live, you have to know who they are. Since you can't cure them, you have to protect the children some other way. I think in Jamaica, we must now have a special unit that looks at, that deals with specially trained of detectives, investigators, prosecutors, who must treat with child killers and child killings in a very special way. One of the things I'd want to know, Michael, is who are we apprehending child killers, number one? And when we apprehend them and they face our courts, what do we know about them? Are we studying this? Because not everybody kill a child, you know. Who are child killers? It's 30-odd kids who are already murdered, and we have not ended the year yet. So this problem is growing.
Yes, let me ask somebody who wants to defend the police in other areas. You are calling for a special unit. Put yourself in the position of the commissioner. One day you may very well be. But the point I'm making here, and the question I'm asking, a special unit, will that really help? I mean, will that just stretch the already stretched numbers to find, you know, that specific skill sets?
Well, a special unit, you asked me to put myself
Yes.
in the position of the commission.
Yes.
I will gladly do that. I will get my rehearsal right here.
Yes.
A special unit is a focus-driven concept that can be looked at. But there needs to be a proper audit that is done first when it comes on to these situations. And when you speak from the hierarchy level, the rank and file level, I can tell you it is a sad day for the JCF because recently we lost a member.
Yes. District Constable, doing it part.
Yes, we lost a member. And I can tell you it has been a moment that I will never forget for the rest of my life, the fact that I was at the crime scene. And I speak about it because if I don't, it will affect me. But it is something that has caused me. The problem existed a long time ago, you know. But it has now caused me not to just sit and say domestic violence, participate in workshop, be a part of something, but to now look at things in a different way and see how best we can remedy this situation. So a specific unit set up for that. It's a focus-driven concept that should be explored. And why I say that it should be explored, at least if our partners internationally realize that we have taken a modern approach in an innovative way, I believe that the support system will be strengthened. And bear in mind, the legislative machinery must be reactivated to deal with these things.
Question. It would move perhaps just from children to include females.
Definitely.
As that unit, because we have
even the
to.
males, don't leave all that.
Yeah, well, but CID deal with all of that, really. You want to focus.
Yeah, so
Focus,
Michael, I'm suggesting something else. The JCF now has a missing persons unit, all right. So I'm not asking them to create something new. I think this problem of child killings and child killers, this whole problem, which I think is very specific and must be dealt with in a different way from other types of crimes, I think that could be included in, because a lot of the children who are murdered went missing, you know, they were reported missing, quite a number of them, prior to being murdered. So we already have a missing persons desk or a missing persons unit within the JCF. So we don't have to create something brand new. I'm suggesting that we could incorporate this particular problem, this particular aspect of crime. Child killings have to be, it's a lot, years we've been begging the JCF to set up a missing children's unit. They now have a missing persons, which includes adults as well. But do you know that on an average, the reports is sometimes 150 children reported each month missing in this country? Yeah, it's a very big number,
yes,
you know.
But I want to explain that number, because I'm aware of some of that number, that all of them are not missing.
No. They go missing and are reported missing, but they come back. So yes, they went missing.
No, let me help you with a little bit of that.
Yeah.
I'm a little constrained, because I have a little more information on that. Some of them are described as missing, but the people don't know exactly where they are.
And that's a minority. So we know about that.
Want to be sure that we understand.
That's a few. That's the minute minority. There are children that we know of that the parents go into the police station, the mother, and report our girl missing, because she don't want her girl child to stay in the community and be sexually molested. We've had several of those cases. So they go and report it, but they know exactly where the child is, because the child not real. However, that's a few. Of the 150 I'm talking about, or 130 or 140, it's a whole heap of them every month. Those children leave home, they're reported missing. Thank God, most of them come back home, but the police have another problem. Want to
fight their mother in front of the school.
Yeah, the police have a big problem, you know, because the missing children's problem is very fluid. In other words, a child go missing today, they come back tomorrow. So they go and make a report to the police station today. By the time the police get round to investigate, they're back home. Then they go on missing again. In fact, there is a growing trend now that we need to make this public, where children are leaving home on a Friday, they carry their clothes to school, they're in them bag, and them don't come back home till Sunday. So we see that this is also a problem, but the parents are reporting them missing.
But because of the home situation that they want to run away from,
exactly.
and that is where the crux of all of this,
that's
to come back to the home.
That's a
We're going to take another break on Hotline Interface. And when we come back, we're going to ask a question about the men. But you don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Hotline. Michael Sharp here with you, and we're discussing the issue of the killings of females, women and children. And there seems to be a peak in terms of those numbers. One of the reactions I noted on social media recently, as it related to Yatana, who to date no one has been brought to justice as it relates to that, and of course, you know, Raven, that's still out there, fresh as ever.
Shanoya Ray, the one from
Shanoya, but that matter is in front of the court and what have you. But the question was asked, these things are happening. Where are the good men in these communities? And I put it to you, Corporal. Where are the good men in the community to protect the little girls? Why they are able to be headed off, you know, lured off or grabbed off? Or where are the good men to ask who did this? Where are they?
Good question. The males in the society, whilst they are seen as the protectors, the father figure, they should be the father figures. It says that it takes a village to raise the family. And what you find, because of some, I would call it some problematic situation that they probably have from childhood, and they believe that they can, you know, be a stick in the back for the young girls, where they try, whether by force or otherwise, to engage them in ungodly activities.
Yes, yes.
They are also out there doing stuff that it will cause the society to wonder, where are the good men? But there are some good men out there who really play that particular role of being that protector, whilst there is another set that wreaks havoc. Now, that set
Predators.
they are predators. Now, they show that manifestation of, I call it demonic behavior, and that has affected young girls. We have seen many unfortunate situations. The school has been robbed of a future leader. The church has been robbed of a future Christian. The very core of the society has been threatened over and over and over.
Question, whether we want to admit it or not, are we talking about a level of mental illness that we have not yet come to terms with? These same predators, these same killers of women and children, are they sick?
Well, this is why I said we need to study this problem. I would like to see us begin to look at any of these child killers who are already incarcerated, who are in our prisons. And I think we need to begin to study. I keep asking the question, who are child killers? Who are they? I know many of them are pedophiles. Some are sociopaths or psychopaths. And we need to know, we don't know enough about that aspect of criminality, who these people are. So I think it's important to begin to study this problem. But you are right in asking the question, where are the good men? I believe there are good men in every single community. It used to be that the community male protectors were the dons, and that in some communities, when we had dons, certain dons, children could not be raped. Children could not be, abused in certain ways. I'm not promoting dons.
There's a judicial system.
Yeah, right.
Yes,
but I've noticed that in certain communities where dons have been removed, that the children are more at risk, and it's very sad to say, because the truth is that it's our government, central government, where a law supposed to be a law-abiding country. Dons are not supposed to be running communities and protecting kids in that way.
It's a consequence that they're afraid.
Of course.
Yes.
Of course. I think there should be a call out to men generally in Jamaica. I find that the male lead, I don't hear the male voices as strongly as we should in Jamaica. We have very powerful men in our boardrooms in corporate Jamaica, in government. We need to ask the men to step up. The issue of fatherlessness is a huge problem, and this is a problem that the men should address. Now I see where Damian Crawford has said that he's been talking out about these child killings and saying that child killers should be called enemies of the state. So he stepped up. I'm not sure they're already enemies of the state, because them done killing children. So they're enemies of the state. I'm not sure, after you name them enemies of the state, what is the next step? Do we hang them in the public square? I'm not sure exactly what he has in mind. But he has stepped up. He's been talking. We need more men to step up and to call on men. Because when I was a little girl, Michael, the only thing we were afraid of us as children was Duppy and Blackheart Man.
Rolling calf.
Rolling calf. And I remember distinctly as a child that if our parents sent us out and we're coming home and it was dusk and we're walking on a lonely road, if we saw a man, we knew we were safe.
Yes, yes.
Can you imagine that? When we saw a man was when we said, shh, man, we know we're safe. Now imagine we have to be telling the children that you can't walk in the lonely places, and if you see a man, run. Can you imagine run? So the men have to step up.
There's a man who's been talking out. He's from the University of the West Indies. He mentioned something the other day that a lot of women took umbrage to. That women who are abused, not all women, please.
A percentage.
A significant percentage of women who are abused end up abusing their children. Didn't stop there. Especially their boys.
Not surprised at that. These things are intergenerational and cyclical, and that's, I don't know. I've not looked at that study.
But they
I
are
don't
the
know.
ones who turn the shutters.
Right,
They are the ones that are
right.
recruited.
Right, but I do know, generally speaking, that in terms of discipline, that our boys tend to be disciplined a lot more harshly than girls, perhaps. I think, again, when we talked about this family life crisis, we have a parenting crisis.
You say discipline more harshly. Would that be equal abuse? Discipline more harshly.
Yeah.
Isn't that still equal to abuse?
Yeah.
Yeah, a nicer way of saying
yeah.
abuse. Yeah.
So we have to look at how our boys are raised. Boys are special human beings. They're different from girls in many respects. And we have to treat with them differently as parents. But the parents don't know. They don't know how to raise boys. Nobody educates them. We don't get no degrees in parenting. And this is why I think the country is also desperate for a really good and consistent public education program to teach parents how to raise kids, how to discipline kids, especially our boy children. They need special attention.
I heard you spoke about, Mr. Sharp, the whole percentage as it relates to men who abuse women, and it's transferred to especially the boys. But there is a post-traumatic stress that is transferred to every area of the society whenever that takes place. And as you rightfully say, that boys require a particular type of treatment. But going back to the men making that loud call for a change in the society, we have influential men in this country. And I have never, in all my years, my old years, I've never heard of a coalition formed to stem this thing. Because there are a lot of young men out there in the inner cities, all over. What you find is mostly members of the constabulary force being mentors out there. When you're supposed to police the place, you have to stop. You have to now conceptualize a community workshop. You have to conceptualize training. You have to do so many things. And when you look at the police-citizen ratio, it's 1 police to over 300 citizens. Now, when you conceptualize such a workshop and conceptualize all kind of different things, which is really the responsibility of the government of Jamaica, it leaves me to think that the burden is placed at one level when it should be a broader national involvement. Now, if it is, I'm not suggesting that the government needs to do anything, because I'm here in the capacity as chairman and a police officer. No, we have to look at a multifaceted approach to deal with the situation. So we have our statistics in the country. We need to assess from what end we are going to take it. Is it that we're going to take it from the office of the Prime Minister? Is it that we're going to take it from the opposition side? Is it that we're going to take it from the constabulary? Is it that we're going to take it from the NGOs? We need to have a multifaceted approach to stem everything that is going on, or else it will happen again, the discussions will go on, and it will stop when there is no occurrence. And when it comes on to parenting workshops, it is important, because whilst you can have a big workshop, and yes, I have a daughter, I have a son, but the information is different, and it should be segmented and there should be a proper breakdown. There should be role play so persons can have that hands-on knowledge and, you know, proper simulation process coming out of those situations. So overall, just summing it up, we have to deal with this from top level, filtering it down, right down to the very man on the ground.
Let me see if I have an accord between both of you. Betty Ann Blaine has called for a summit. She's appealing to the Prime Minister to say, listen, stop,
Urgent.
let us sit down and talk.
Just half a day.
Yeah.
Give us half a day.
Would that be, you think that would be a good start?
It is a good start, but where will it lead to?
Yeah, depends
Well,
on where the
what
party-
we,
start.
yeah, but what we have in mind for this summit is this. We need to come away with even two things we can do to protect kids nationally. Because there's nothing that children see, you know, in other words, the kids don't, nothing has been done outside of the Ananda Alert, which is now, what, about 10 years, 10 years?
And the thing's full up.
We've not established anything. So, all I'm saying is this. This summit is not a talk shop. It is to look at even two things we could do to protect kids. One, I think, could be the transportation solution.
Right.
The other one, I like the idea of children's patrols through communities. Ask the private security companies to help us. So if we can come away with two things, we'd have succeeded. That's all. It's not a talk shop. But I wanted to just, before we forget, that there are organizations. You remember Barry Sivan started
yes,
Fathers
I thought-
Incorporated. Herbert Gale been talking about. So there are
That's
many,
the
you know.
gentleman I quoted from you, Dr.
Yeah,
I without
right.
calling his
Herbert
name.
Gale.
Yes.
Herbert Gale is
So,
active.
so in other
Father
words, there are men that are trying, but I agree with you. We need more men. We need those influential men in the society. You said it.
Definitely.
To step up to the plate. And I would love to see an ad where some of these influential men would say, give you a message to boys.
There are various things
You know, there-
can do.
yeah.
Those influential men can take pictures, post it all
Exactly.
over, and that little young man will never forget it for the rest of
Exactly.
his life.
Exactly.
I mean, the churches play a big role. No, we can't look at denomination, who is Adventist, who is Church of God, who is Pentecostal. It is about a problem that affects everyone.
I am going to ask you to pause,
Okay.
take a break. We'll be right back on Hotline Interface. Welcome back to the Hotline Interface. We have Betty Ann Blaine and Arlene McBean, and they represent very important bodies, and they're saying the men need to step up. And we also hear that there's a need for resources. We need to pinpoint, buttonhole those with the resources to come and assist. Resources, an important resource that most people miss is the one of time. And recently on a program, I heard Miss Elizabeth Ward making the point, Dr. Elizabeth Ward making the point that the police has to do so much, and perhaps will have to do more, but they themselves have their own challenges as it relates to getting this done. Corporal McBean, can they do any more? Because they're the ones now, you tell me 1 to 300, 3,000 or whatever.
Police to citizen ratio is one police officer to over 300 citizens.
Yes.
You don't find that in the Caribbean or internationally.
Wow. And anything go bad without a focus group, anything go bad, you have to call the police.
Definitely, and what you find, as we were discussing earlier about, you know, a group focusing specifically on, you know, child abuse and other issues, our police officers most time have to delay to pick up their own kids from the nursery, from school, just to deal with a problematic child or a group of kids. We have to do it.
Already
I
stressful
have done
job.
that already.
Yes.
And my child sometimes will call the school, use the school phone to call me to say, Mommy, do you remember that I'm waiting on you?
Yes.
However, because of my commitment to service, I have to deal with that because I will be held accountable. And many of our police officers, this is what we do. Even though we're not paid for overtime, we must note that. We work long hours in excess of 8 hours because we should have been very lucky to be experiencing what it is to work a 40-hour work week. To date, we have not seen that.
But I must say that you don't have a new wage agreement, so therefore you must be rich. What's going on?
We don't have a new wage agreement. We're still going through the negotiation process because what has been offered, as you know, we have been before that situation, that whole negotiation process since last year, August, that's 2017. And to date, we have to hold on to our position. Why we have asked for the constable at the lowest point, and that group is over 6,000, to be recognized in this negotiation. Historically speaking, the constables have never benefited because when they get something, there is a cascading effect that benefits the top tier and not the base, who holds everything and is the foundation that creates success. So we cannot jump as a federation and hold on to something that when you look at the calculative impact against inflation, you end up with nothing. So our members over all these years continue to operate at a deficit because of what we have to do. Remember, whilst we are police officers, we are citizens, we are consumers. So we have to negotiate with this in mind and negotiate for those police officers who are out there in the trenches, out there in the zones of special operation, the state of emergency, the stakeout, to hold on to the criminals, the police officers who goes to the wharf and recover all those firearms and save over 2,000 lives in this country. Hold on to the police officers who has contributed significantly to the reduction, 21% to 27% reduction in murder and 16% to 18% reduction in shooting. So it is important that you understand the very core from which the Police Federation approaches this negotiation. And we will continue on this path until our government of Jamaica realize.
When you're meeting next again, is
well,
there any
we have
movement?
there was a marginal movement recently because we met with the Minister of Finance on the 21st and 22nd of September. So the movement was marginal. But it is far from what we want, and we need to have that dialogue going because Jamaica has seen our success, and we're not unreasonable. We're just asking for something to survive.
But when you ask for success, it sounds like it's the politicians and get the accolades.
You see, when it comes on to the Jamaica Constabulary Force, successive administration has failed to invest in the human capital of the force. So what you find is that we operate with the meager resources but yet reap success. We operate with the most archaic facility but yet reap success. We go out there and shine and impact lives just the same, but yet we reap success.
When are you meeting again? When
well, we are awaiting a feedback from the ministry. We recently sent our counter proposal to them. So we are anxiously awaiting that date. We did not give a date this time around. We will allow them to peruse the document and give us something beneficial. I know that. Based on this success, you know, we're looking at how long, but Mr. Sharp, never you look at the length of the rope. Always look at where the rope will end with what you want to achieve at the end of it.
And I want to say that we support police officers. I certainly do, and my own organization and the work we do. We couldn't do it without the support of the police. I really stand in solidarity. If we're serious about fighting crime, and we're talking about heinous crimes against children, we must first take care of the police. We must make sure that they're taken care of. I've been into some police stations that are so unbelievably atrocious when I look at the conditions under which police officers operate. It is disgraceful, disgraceful. And so if we are serious about fighting crime, we must first make sure that we take care of our police. They must get a decent, good and decent living wage. They must work under good conditions, or else what are we asking? What are we asking them? So I support this. Look, police officers have to be all things to all people in Jamaica. They're everything. They're police officers, they're parents, they're counselors, they're guidance counselors. And yeah, you are. And we must take care of you. So I'm one of those Jamaicans who believe that we must treat our police officers well. Their jobs are difficult, and we must give them as much help as we can.
So you don't have a timeline in your mind? The big Christmas to come now, everybody
We
want
have a
them llama.
timeline, but we will not go into that part of it because
Okay.
everything is a systematic step, and definitely we are hoping that good sense will prevail.
But even when that is happening, they're calling more upon the resources of the JCF
Definitely.
to stem this monster.
Right, and it is an indication that there is major, not a little, there is major disparity when you're calling for more out of a body that you don't want to pay a livable wage so they can survive, so their family can at least be focused. A police officer at the lowest point cannot survive right now. Every single month operates at a deficit. Now, can you imagine a police officer out there coming towards you, not being focused? His light is off, there's no water, there's no food in their house. Police Federation has been standing in the gap financially, and it has caused our funds to reach to the point where it has been depleted sometimes because we cannot allow them to go out there hungry. Many times police officers cannot find the money to feed themselves, but yet, because of the commitment and the patriotism, they are out there hungry. No, we cannot allow that to happen. No proper, well-thinking state would allow police officers to be standing before them or sitting before them at any negotiation table begging like common mendicants. None.
That's hot.
And so the other point I want to make, Michael, and for Corporal McBean is, here is how we can help you. We can fix family life. If we begin to focus on fixing family life in Jamaica, your job is going to be so much easier.
Yes.
So as we look at how we support police, we need to focus on that fixing family life.
Have
And
you
by the
got
way,
a
there's a way
response
to
from
do
the
it.
Prime Minister? 'Cause
About
we're
the summit?
talking about deadlines and
You mean about
the summit?
No,
yes.
not yet, but we're hoping
When
that...
did you send this and how?
Well, from last year we've been asking. I actually met with the Prime Minister last year. He asked us to put a proposal together for the summit, which we did, and we're now waiting to hear whether... I want to encourage him. I think that, here's what I want to say. If this Prime Minister is able to come up with one solution for child protection, which will have national impact, no, who would ever forget that? Who would ever forget that? So we're trying to say to him it would be an awesome thing.
Yes.
We know he has children too. We know he's concerned about the kids. He's a family man.
Yeah.
And so all we're asking is a half a day to put the minds together to come up with at least one national solution that children will see themselves and say, wow, we care, Jamaicans care, the adults care, and that will make a difference in protecting children. We can do this.
Two things I'm hearing, and in just my own quick summation. We have two challenges out there. One from the JCF, pay them more. We have responded to you. We're waiting on you to respond with a better deal. And we're hearing Mr. Prime Minister name the date, not for election or anything, for the summit for the children. Thank you so much. Thank you, ladies. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Pleasant viewing.